it's Missniecytv, and I'm here to review for Sistas Season 8, Episode 21. The episode picks up where it left off, and everybody's still in the mediation, and Tony's lawyer says to Andy, so you're trying to spin your client assaulting a co-worker into a famous. Andy's like, you might not be impressed with my tactics, but a jury of Miss King's peers will definitely be impressed when I do higher airlines. Tony's lawyer speaks up, and she's like, you'll be laughed at in court. Andy's like, not necessarily, when I illustrate that Miss King was being harassed by a cisgender white man, and that was the only choice she had to defend herself. Tony's lawyer then says, if I convince our airlines to put an end to Miss King's suspension, can we just move on and go about our day? Andy's like, no, that's not gonna cut it. The lawyer's like, okay, that's fine. Miss King will receive back pay for the time that she was suspended. Andy's like, okay, but she will also receive $150,000. Tony says to Danny, is this really what you want? Danny don't say nothing. Andy's like, please instruct your client to not speak to my client directly. Then they go back and forth on the price, and the lawyer is like, well, we'll pay Danny for back pay, but she only gonna get $50,000. Andy's like, well, Danny, do you trust me? Danny's like, yeah. Tony's lawyer is like, $60,000, that's our final offer. Andy's like, $75,000. If you don't pay that, I'll see you in court. Mediation's finally over, and Tony's lawyer is like, are you coming? Tony's like, no, I think I'm gonna just talk to Danny. Andy asks Danny, she's like, are you sure? Danny's like, yeah. So everybody leaves, and it's just Tony and Danny, and Tony's like, how did we get here? Danny's like, you know exactly how we got here. You wasn't listening to me or anything that I had to say, and you was trying to change me into something that I wasn't, and all I wanted you to do was love me for me. Danny's like, I'm sorry, and I realize that now, but where do we go from here? Danny's like, I don't want this to affect what just happened for me, so I guess I'll see you at work tomorrow. We're at the salon. Pam wants to know how the Rooster Riches sales are going, and Karen's like, they're not even putting a dent into the numbers that Mr. Marie set for us. Pam is like, well, I got an idea. Karen's like, what is it? Pam is like, we could start marketing it as Loop. Pam is like, yeah, Maurice gave me the idea, and I think it would actually work. We could bring him on as an ambassador, and he could start marketing it to all the boys. Karen is like, no, we're supposed to be marketing this as Edge Control. How would that look if we started selling it as Loop? Pam is like, I was just trying to figure out a way to make sales. Karen is like, well, we could start doing it the old-fashioned way, going door to door and word of mouth and stuff. At the law firm, we see Zach bringing Fatima breakfast because she didn't eat her breakfast because she was in a rush to leave. And Fatima's like, thank you, but you gotta leave. Zach is like, why do I always eat breakfast with you? Fatima's like, yeah, I know, but today is a big day for Andy, and I don't want nothing to go wrong. Zach is like, I understand she just made managing partner, but I know she's not power tripping like Robin. Fatima's like, no, I just don't want her to think that I'm taking advantage of her friend. Fatima's like, I want to be an asset, not a liability. And then Zach is like, what you working on? And then Fatima tells him everything that's going on with Miss Marie, Karen, and Pam in the sales, right? Zach is like, maybe I should invest. Fatima's like, no. How would that look? You investing and something goes wrong, and then we just started repairing our relationship. Zach is like, I thought you and Karen were homegirls. Fatima's like, far from it. We were just two women in a situation, and we decided to be mature about it. Zach is like, well, you got any information on Jordan? I saw his sister in the law firm when I was coming to bring you breakfast. Fatima's like, well, I gotta go check on Andy, make sure she's okay. Zach is like, Andy is going, yeah. As they're talking about everything that's going on with Jordan, Robin walks up, and Fatima's like, Zach, you gotta go. Robin is like, hi, Zach, how you doing? Zach is like, I'm good. I could be better, though, if you treated my wife better. Fatima's like, Zach, don't say that. Robin's like, well, I deserve that. Then Zach leaves, and it's just Robin and Fatima. And Robin's like, I want to apologize for everything before I leave. I'm going to London, and I don't want to leave us off on a bad foot. And I also want to thank you for always having Andy's back. I could sleep a little better knowing that she's in your hands. Fatima's like, I always got her. Over at the bank, Maurice is on the phone with Sabrina, and he wants all to see about what happened in Turks and Caicos. Sabrina's like, nothing happened. Did you forget that I'm in a relationship? Maurice is like, seems like Rich forgot. Then she gets a knock on the door, and Sabrina's like, this might be Rich now. He might be coming to apologize. He was sadly mistaken because it's definitely Calvin at the door, and Sabrina's like, Calvin? Maurice is still on the phone, and he's like, my Calvin? Put him on the phone, he still owes me rent money. Calvin is like, Sabrina, can I come in so we can talk? Sabrina's like, I don't think that's a good idea. Calvin's like, please, I really need to talk. He compliments her multiple times about how good she looks, and Sabrina's like, you said that already. She's like, what are you doing here? Now you want to talk to me after all this time? Sabrina finally lets him in, and she's like, what brings you back to Atlanta? Calvin's like, I had to tie up Salu's hands in a whole storage unit, and I also wanted to see you. Sabrina's like, oh, really? Calvin's like, does that surprise you? Sabrina's like, yeah, seeing that you didn't come say goodbye. Sabrina's like, Marie said if you came to say goodbye to me face to face, it would be hard for you to leave. Calvin's like, it was a cop-out on my part, and you didn't deserve that, seeing it after everything we've been through. Sabrina's like, yeah, I know, but how was L.A.? Calvin's like, it was good. I'm good. Sabrina's like, Maurice told me that you moved out there for some girl. Calvin's like, Trixie. Sabrina's like, what? Calvin's like, my ex-girlfriend's name is Trixie. Calvin is like, how much did Maurice tell you about Trixie? Sabrina's like, well, you told me that she was more accepting of you and everything that you like. Calvin is like, the whole panties thing and everything else. Calvin is like, that was just a cop-out. She sees me more as a fetish and not as an actual person with feelings. Calvin's like, I just want to thank you, Sabrina, for treating me like I actually have feelings and showing me that I could be cared for. Over at the juice bar, Rich gets a call from Jordan and he asks Jordan, how's he doing? Jordan's all distraught, like, I don't know how much more of this I can take. Rich is like, you scare me, bro. Don't talk like that. Jordan's like, well, let's just face the facts. It's been a month and it doesn't seem like I'm coming out of here alive. Rich is like, don't talk like that. Your sister is working on getting you a lawyer as we speak. Jordan's like, I guess I did myself a disservice by going to the ICU and choking Gary out. It doesn't help. They think that I stabbed Gary. You know I didn't do this, right? She's like, of course I know that. Jordan's like, well, Agent Watt doesn't seem to think so. He thinks that it's all put together. And Rich is like, well, that's two different things. You going to choke Gary at the ICU and stabbing him is two different things. Jordan's like, well, promise me one thing. If something happens to me, make sure you take care of my sister. Rich didn't want to say that because he knows that Jordan's talking crazy. But Rich eventually says it and Jordan gets off the phone. At the law firm, Andy goes into Robin's office to talk to him and Andy's like, so when you leaving for London? Robin's like, I'm leaving tonight. Andy's like, I can't imagine you leaving on my first day as managing partner. Robin's like, well, I told you I was only here to help the firm until they got what they needed, and now they got what they needed, I could leave. Robin's like, you never answered my question, though. Andy's like, what's that? Robin's like, are you gonna miss me? Andy never answered this man's question. Andy walks over to her, and she's like, is there something I can do to make you stay? And as they're about to kiss, Penelope walks in the door. She's like, Robin, I need to talk to you. Andy's like, well, I guess I'm just gonna let you two talk. Penelope's like, yeah. Penelope and Robin talking, and Robin's basically like, what can I do for you? Penelope's like, I need you to help Jordan. He's been in jail for over a month. They're trying to railroad my brother, saying that he did this and he's a flight risk. Penelope's like, I need you to help him. Robin's like, I don't think I can do that because I represented you and Andy, and if I represent Jordan, I look like an ambulance chase. Penelope starts touching on Robin and she's like, are you really gonna make me pay you? Robin's like, Penelope's like, I already lost my baby to Gary. I'm not gonna lose my brother too. Robin's like, what I will do is go by the jailhouse before I leave to see what I can do, but I can't make no promises. Penelope starts touching on him and she's like, Robin, thank you. I can't thank you enough. She hugs him. She must have felt Andy still standing there because she let that hug linger on a little too long. So Andy walks by and she starts feeling some type of way. So Andy approaches Penelope after she's done talking to Robin. Penelope's like, what do you want, Andy? Andy's like, first of all, I'm gonna need you to respect me in my place of business. Penelope's like, your place of business? Andy's like, yeah, Robin didn't tell you? I'm managing partner now. Penelope starts clapping like, do you want a cookie or something? Andy's like, how's Jordan? Penelope's like, you don't have a right to ask me that. Penelope's like, my brother is rotting in a jail cell because of you. Andy's like, well, I didn't tell him to go up there to the ICU and choke Gary out. Penelope's like, you're the reason he did it, though. You're a cancer to every man that ever's come across you and never will be with you. Over at Danny's, we see Danny chilling on the couch watching TV, and she gets a knock on the door, and it's Tony. And I'm like, Tony, didn't she tell you that she would see you tomorrow at work? That didn't mean show up at her house. Danny's like, what part of giving me space don't you understand? Tony's like, well, it's been a month, and if I let you go on a little longer, I think you would have decided that we were done, and I can't let you do that. Danny's like, well, see, you coming over here trying to make decisions for me again, and I don't need that. Danny's like, shouldn't you be at work? Tony's like, some things are way more important than work. Danny's like, that's funny coming from you. Danny's like, oh, look at you. Tony's like, don't be like that. Danny's like, what you mean? We spent half our relationship with you trying to tell me what to do. Tony's like, well, I'm sorry. And Tony's like, well, I'm not prepared to lose our relationship without a fight. Danny's like, well, that's funny because all our relationship was fighting. I spent half the relationship trying to change you into something that you're not. I was trying to change you into a career-driven alpha female, and I shouldn't have did that. I also should have listened to you about the leadership program and so many other things. He's like, I vowed to never do that again, and he pulls out this ring, and Danny starts laughing like, what are you doing? Tony's like, well, that wasn't the reaction I was expecting. Tony, that was the top-tier gaslighting, manipulating, and narcissistic ways that you have. Why would you decide to propose to that lady after she said she needed space? Danny's like, get up off those bad knees of yours. You don't need to be on the ground. Tony is like, well, just to show you how pure my intentions are. Danny is like, what's wrong with us? I just sued the airlines for wrongful termination and I got $75,000. You come in here and proposing to me like, what is this? Danny's like, we're one wedding stabbing away from being like Andy and Gary. Tony's like, don't ever say that. Don't compare me to them. Tony's like, can't you see how much you got under my skin? Danny's like, well, you got under my skin too. And I don't think it's enough for us to build our relationship. Tony's like, well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but I'm willing to give it a try. Danny's like, well, I don't think I'll ever be enough for you. And he's like, why don't we just quit while we're ahead? Tony's like, I'm very sorry. I'm the one that made you insecure to think that you weren't good enough for me because I was trying to change you and I shouldn't have did it. Tony's like, if you give me another chance, I'll spend the rest of my life proving how perfect you are for me. Danny's like, well, let me see that ring again. She looks at the ring a little longer and she's like, over at the salon, we see Karen working on somebody's hair with another stylist, and that's when Aaron walks in and he's like, how you doing, beautiful? And Pam answers and she's like, I'm good. Karen is like, he was talking to me. Aaron is like, how are you and the babies doing? Karen is like, mommy's good, babies are good. How are you, daddy? And then they kiss. Pam interjects and she's like, look at y'all rekindled and expecting half of a twin. Karen's trying to get back to work and she's like, well, we got one business to keep running and one to get off the ground, so we gotta get back to work. Lisa pulls up and she's like, I'm ready to work, whatever you need me to do. Aaron's like, I'm here to help too. So she gives everybody assignments. She tells Pam that she's going to do social media. Miss Lisa's going to run the salon. And Aaron's going to do logistics. Also tells the other employees that they could throw parties to promote Roots to Riches. And she's going to give them a commission on sales. Over in Gary's office, Hayden and Gary are there. And Hayden's like, you sure you want to be here? This will not be the first place I want to be after a month of being out. Gary's like, no, this is where I belong. This is where I made the magic happen. Hayden's like, well, do you have any memories coming back to you? Gary's like, no, it's a feeling that I feel more than memories. Hayden's like, well, I'm happy to hear that. Gary's like, I'm serious. I couldn't have done this without you. If it wasn't for you, I'd still be in the hospital being pumped up with God knows what. Hayden's like, I was only doing what friends do. Gary's like, well, you're more a friend to me than Hudson is. I know that I wasn't the one that gave him power of attorney. He was. Hudson walks in and he's like, should my ears be ringing? Gary's like, Hudson's like, it's glad to see you back, boss. Gary's like, yeah, you should know I'm your boss and not the other way around. Hudson's basically like, what you talking about? It's good to see you back. Gary's like, that's BS. You wanted me to stay in the hospital so you could keep stealing from me. Since like you're accusing me of stealing from you, I can't believe this. Everything that I ever do is for you. Hayden's like, do y'all need to be alone? Back over at the law firm, Robin goes to check on Andy after the altercation with Penelope, right? And he was like, it sounded like things were pretty intense out there with you and Penelope. Andy's like, yeah, she's hell-bent on blaming me for everything. Little does she know I tried to help Jordan by calling some of my attorney friends. He refused that help. Then I went to the jail to see him. He refused to see me. Andy's like, well, can I ask what you and her were talking about? Robin's like, well, we were just talking about Jordan. He's in pretty bad shape. Andy's like, well, I didn't tell him to go to the ICU and choke Gary out. What was he thinking? Robin's like, he wasn't. Andy's like, I hope he's able to get out of jail. Robin's like, is that all you hope? Then he moves closer to Andy. And she's like, this is inappropriate. Robin's like, I don't care about that. Robin's like, admit that you love me as much as I love you. Then he starts talking about London and how he's leaving tonight. And Andy's like, do you have to leave? And Robin's like, I pretty much made up my mind. But there is only one way that I'll stay. Is that if you tell me that you want to be with me. And the reason for that is I have an offer to be on the bench. And I could become a judge. But Robin's like, I can decide to go work at the firm in the UK. Or I could stay here and become a judge. The judge assistant is basically on you. And Andy's like, well, I can't let you stay for me. You basically hit her with the love and basketball line. I'll play you for your heart. But his was, I'll stay for the judgeship and fight for your heart if you tell me that you want to be with me. But if you don't come, I guess I'm off to the land of tea and crumpets and starting my life in the UK. Then he kisses her. Back over in Gary's office, Hudson is like, you got it all wrong. Gary's like, no, you're the one that got it all wrong. He's like, you really think that you could screw up my life and get away with it? You're fired. Get out my face. I don't want to see you no more. Hudson's like, Gary, don't do this. Gary's like, don't beg. Leave with some dignity and respect. Hudson's like, you're going to regret this. Gary's like, no, the only thing I regret is hiring you. So Hudson leaves, and Hayden's like, you definitely sounded like your old self. Gary's like, taking care of that traitor was just the beginning. I'm going to make everybody's life a living hell. I'm going to get everything back that was taken from me, especially Andy. Hayden's like, I know how you feel, especially when it comes to a girl. You want to get revenge on anyone that betrayed you. Gary's like, see, that's why we're friends. Hayden's like, we were the best of friends until you slept with my woman. He's like, what you talking about? Hayden's like, let me jog your memory. Then he grabs Gary, and Gary's like, get off of me. Hayden's like, Tamara, you don't remember, Tamara? I found out the night that you were supposed to marry Andy. Gary's like, were you the one that stabbed me? Hayden's like, no, but I did come up to the banquet hall. Gary's like, I do remember now. You came up to the banquet hall to talk to me and you had a knife in your hand and you were going to stab me with it. Hayden's like, yeah, I actually did have a knife. I grabbed it on the way to the room to talk to you, but I realized that you weren't worth it, so I decided to just beat you up. Gary's like, hey. Hayden's like, why you think I'm working so hard on this power of attorney thing? I'm only doing it so you don't finish stabbing on me. Hayden's like, consider us even. Hayden's like, one more thing though. If you ever come near me and my woman again, I'm gonna make sure that you won't be in the hospital, but you'll be barely up in Lake Lanier. Gary's like, you know what, I like that. And he extends his hand to Hayden, and Hayden's like, too soon. Hayden's like, I mean every word I'm saying. I'm not playing with you, Gary. And then he walks out. Let me know what you guys think about the episode. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications. Bye.